You're listening to the Beast of the East podcast on the Believe Podcast Network and Willis Digital Media. All right, welcome back. It is the Beast of the East. Craig, it's been a while, buddy. It's been a while, and you'll see us here eventually. But we are Believe Podcast Network. We are the Beast of the East, and we are coming to you live from Willis Digital Media, home of the Palmcast, home of the Best of the West, which is our companion show, and home of SEC After Dark, plus many, many other shows. So we thank Steve for joining us here on the video screen. I got my new ring light, so we're good to go. Like I said, we are on the Believe Podcast Network. You can find our audio version there. Joining me, as always, I'm your host, Corey Burton, at Coach Burton 36. All my information is right above. Joining me, as always, is Craig Ladd. Craig, what's up?
Corey, glad to be in again. A few little things happening in the SEC.
You say? just a couple of things.
Yeah,
it's got a little interesting. So yeah, we're gonna talk. We may talk about that, right? Or you just want to talk Olympics? Or no, I'm just kidding.
No, not the Olympics.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Olympics is kind of weak without the crowd. I'll be honest. Yeah. So, yeah, we won't talk about that, but we are. We're presented by betonline.ag. Speaking of the Olympics, some interesting odds, gold medal odds. You have Iran at plus 75,000. So if they win any gold medals, that might be a fun bet to do. The U.S. is minus 300 also. And they also have odds on where Dame Lillard's going to end up if he's traded. The Knicks have the best odds at plus 150. The Raptors have the worst odds that are listed at plus 1,200. My Atlanta Hawks are not on there. And Craig, I know you are a Clippers fan, and they are plus 750. So, are you gonna try to get on any of that action?
First of all, I'm not a Clippers fan. If I was, I would probably say I'm a Grizzlies fan.
Oh yeah, John Morant, he's exciting.
Yeah, I got to stay in the home state. I mean, come on.
Well, July is wrapping up, man. The NBA Finals, they're done. MLB, they're in the second half of the season. There's plenty of action to get on there as well. If you're football better, there's tons of futures and props you can wager on. NFL training camps are starting to kick off. BetOnline has all the latest odds, news, and information for all your online sports betting needs. So do this. Go visit the website today or use your mobile device to join. Receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit before your next tip-off, face-off, or pitch. Head on over to BetOnline and start playing today. That's BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Now that we got that out of the way, we got that behind us. Our great friends at BetOnline presenting our show, so I do thank them. But some news if you have been living under a rock, or if you're just not into sports and you don't really care, Texas and OU have decided they want to join the SEC. Well, they've ended their media, or they've delivered their intent to the Big 12 to end their media rights with the contract that is expiring, or not expiring, but up for renewal in 2025. That's the latest in that story. Could happen sooner. Maybe even as soon as next year. So when you heard this story break last week, what was your initial thoughts, Craig?
Well, it was, I wouldn't say I was surprised. I was sort of mildly shocked. How's that?
Yeah. I mean, Steve told me that. I was like, he's like, we're going to, because it broke like right before our SEC After Dark show last week.
Yes.
Steve's like, we're going to have to talk Texas, Oklahoma. And I was like, yeah, the horns down thing. I was like, yeah, that's okay. Sure. I guess so. And he's like, no. Go look at and he sent me a screenshot of a tweet. And I'm like, okay, this is about to get real. And then like an hour later, every reporter that's ever been in the business was retweeting and talking to their sources, and this thing blew up. So, man, it's crazy. And yeah, I don't know. Like at first glance, I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like we're expanding again. Hey, you know what? And then the more I think about it, I'm like, I don't know. Like I don't know what it's going to look like. Hopefully, we handle it well. The expansion is nowhere near done. So,
No.
um, and it's going to get It's going to get even crazier before it levels out.
I agree, Corey. I mean, you know, not necessarily on the same ship as saying that it's going to stay at 16. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't try to get a couple more. Obviously, you think of a Clemson and a FSU out of the ACC. So I would not be surprised if it didn't happen. There really is going to be some massive shuffling going on. You wonder what I know we're the beast of the East, but you wonder what the Big Ten's going to do, because in the power rankings of conferences, the Big Ten is right behind the SEC. So good and well that they're really exploring and really doing their due diligence, because they're not going to let the SEC steal all the thunder. They'll make some moves themselves.
They will, and Iowa State's got to be one of those moves. You create a rivalry, an interesting rivalry with Iowa, and Iowa State's a really good program actually. And I've been impressed with what Matt Campbell's been able to do, and I know Matt Campbell kind of wants to get back into the Big Ten. Hey, he might not have to go anywhere, and he'll get back in there with the Cyclones, and then you have to think like what's going to happen. Oklahoma and Texas leave. Now you're left with 8 teams in the Big 12, and then let's say Kansas, Iowa State goes to the Big 10, then you're left with 6. You have to think the Pac-12 is going to absorb those other 6, right?
Well, I'm not. I don't think Kansas is
except for West Virginia.
No, yeah, I don't think Kansas is going to the Big 10. This is football driven, and obviously their football program is poor, to say the least. I wouldn't be surprised, Corey, if they didn't go west. What about USC? What about taking a USC and UCLA? You got Colorado already. You've got Nebraska's more out west also from the remainder of the Big 10. What about that? What about doing that? And I think if they do that, then probably, or maybe even before that, the Pac-12 will be looking at, I think, a Texas Tech and an Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I think the Big 12 definitely absorbs the Texas schools, and then they create that little Southwest corridor. It'd be interesting if the Big 10 grabbed the 2 LA schools. That would be very, very interesting. It'd be weird too, because it's all like that West Coast area. So you'd have like a LA schools plus the Southwest schools, and you have all the Northwest schools, Pacific Northwest schools, and then you throw in, they'll probably try to make a run at maybe Boise State, maybe make a run at BYU, even though the reason BYU hadn't been in the Pac-12 before is because of religious affiliation. So I don't know. This thing's going to get real interesting because Notre Dame still has contractual obligations with the ACC. I wonder if that changes and the Big Ten tries to coax them into their league, and if they try to make some trades with the ACC to get some of those true, like Pitt, Syracuse, some of those schools too, to kind of create some rivalries. I don't know. I mean, it's going to get interesting for sure.
Well, the Big Ten has tried many, many times to get Notre Dame to join, and for whatever reason, Notre Dame is not interested in joining. And I don't see what would change their mind now, to be quite honest with you.
They have to go somewhere, and the Big Ten is more lucrative.
I think, the ACC has got to go and say, okay, it's time for you to become a full-fledged member of our conference. And I think they're going to have to make that choice. Now, like I said, they've turned down the Big Ten many times to expand, because good and well that the first team that the Big Ten reached out to when all the expansion first started was Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And obviously that never happened, and obviously still is not happening. I just don't see it happening in the future. I really don't. I think if they go anywhere, it's going to be the ACC. They're going to be a full member of the ACC.
Yeah, well, that's where they're tied to right now. But they're going to go where the money is, right? I
True.
mean, they have no choice now at this point because the new playoff expansion legislature kind of screws them. For a while they could say no because they're Notre Dame and they could get in. But now, like this whole independent deal with NBC doesn't really mean jack squat now. So they're going to have to find a conference. And I would say the Big Ten has a more lucrative television deal than the ACC network. But, I don't know. Like ACC still has Clemson, who is highly rated, Florida State, Miami. So they have some big market teams. But, then again, it would make most sense geographically for them to go ahead and join the Big Ten and create those rivalries in state with Purdue and Indiana, create that big boy relationship with Ohio State, and finally give Ohio State somebody that's worthy of playing against them.
It's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out because as soon as things broke with Oklahoma and Texas being rumored to be going to the SEC, and obviously all the more moves were made today in order for that to happen. There were a lot of phone calls being made throughout the country by school presidents, ADs, etc., conference presidents, whatever. I mean, it really has set off a firestorm as far as that goes because, if you get left out in the cold in this, Corey, it could cost you a ton of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of money at stake. There's a lot of seats at the table in this playoff at stake as well. And, you get stuck. Like Kansas could get stuck and end up in the Mountain West.
Yeah, like I said, and the reason for that obviously is their football program because, as I said before, football is driving this thing. Obviously, if it was based on basketball, Kansas would be a top 5 choice, but it's based on football and the fact that Kansas has had their little spurts, but right now they're down in the dumps again, and I just don't see how they could be anything attractive about them at this point. And you got, a TCU, for example, is another school that, you wonder where they're going to end up. Looking at other things too. I mean, will the Big 12 try to survive and go back and get an SMU and a Houston,
I don't think they can survive that. I mean, you cannot replace Texas and Oklahoma with, I'm sorry, SMU fans. I'm sorry, Houston fans, but you can't replace those two, with those two.
Well,
they're going to have to. They're going to have
drop
to go
off.
Yeah, they're going to have to go try to. They're going to have to go try to steal back Nebraska. They're going to have to go try to steal back Colorado. I mean, they're going to have to. No, it ain't happening. No, but they're going to have to.
Big 12 doesn't have enough cachet to do that.
They're going to have to go do something.
Cash and cachet to pull that off. No, I just don't see how the Big 12 survives in this. I really don't.
They don't. I mean, Oklahoma State is now your marquee program, or maybe Iowa State's your marquee program, which is very admirable program. I love Iowa State. Been rooting for them since Matt Campbell got hired, but your hat hanging, your leader, your premier marquee program cannot be Iowa State. I love you, Iowa State, but that cannot be your marquee program. So I think the Big 12 is dead.
I agree with you. I just don't see how any way it can survive because, it's these other conferences, as I said before. You could have the Pac-12 coming in there and plucking some teams. You could have the Big Ten coming in there and plucking some teams.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably the leftovers will probably then go to the AAC. Wouldn't be surprised if that happened.
Yeah, I mean the AAC could make a claim for getting big boy status if it got a few of these Big 12 teams, and they've got a budding superstar program in UCF. Who's getting more and more talented. They have a big name coach in Gus Malzahn. They're sitting waiting in the wings, waiting for their big conference opportunity. You have Memphis, Cincinnati. So you have some programs that are potentially viable. if they add a few of these teams, they do have a chance, right? Um, but then again, I don't know because it's still a collection of random. They're just basically like a bulked up version of a group of five. So I don't know. I just know the SEC is king. Everybody else is looking up. Sorry, Big Ten. Sorry, Pac-12. Sorry, ACC. That's just facts. So it's going to get to a point where the SEC is just so big. They might add. They might get up to 20 teams and just have their own league and say everybody else play for, like, treat it like high school where it's like the SEC is like Division II here in Tennessee, where they're competing for their own championship, and then everybody else is kind of left over there in Division I.
Yeah.
It could be like it has some like cool name for it, like it's the Star League, the Marquee League, or the Premier League. And if you ever wanted to set up promotion and relegation, have the SEC get to like 24 teams and then do promotion and relegation. That would be a fun thing to explore with this new expansion. So let's see how it kind of all shakes out. Then we can kind of have some fun with it in the offseason and explore. But so Texas and Oklahoma come over. There's been a lot of ideas, as far as the current makeup of the SEC. There's been some different ideas thrown around: pod system, just stack the divisions, or even have no divisions. What do you think would be, obviously if they go to just two divisions, it would make sense for Alabama and Auburn to come over to the East and then just stick them in the West and trade Missouri over to the West and kind of just do it that way. But what do you make of this? How do you think it affects the conference makeup, expansion, divisions, pods? Anything that stood out to you there? Anything that you liked?
I really didn't, I saw a north, south, east, west. Really didn't like that. I'm more of sticking, even though, sticking to the two divisions myself. And you mentioned Alabama, Auburn. It could be a Mississippi State. We know that. I think those four teams would be the ones that would probably go to the East. It would make more sense that way. They're not going to take Texas A&M because they want them with Texas and they want to keep the Red River rivalry game, and they want Texas and Oklahoma in the same division. So I agree. Probably if I had my choice, I would say move Alabama and Auburn over to the East.
Yeah.
I think too, it would sort of even things up, even though you never know. As we said before in the last show, it's very cyclical. But right now, if you moved Alabama and Auburn over to the East, it would be more even. I'll say the two divisions right now would be more even if you did that.
Yeah, no doubt. And you're adding a lot of star power in the West. You bring over a lot of star power in the East, and hey, let's roll. And you got to understand that without there's going to be some sort of playoff thing imminent, because this wouldn't have happened had we stayed at 4 teams. So this would be disastrous for Texas and Oklahoma to come over in that scenario. So it's at least going to 12. It could even get as far as 16.
Yeah.
So one thing we do know is there's going to be 4 SEC teams in the tournament at all times.
Yeah.
Right.
I think too, Corey, that here's another scenario too. You keep adding teams and that keeps knocking down non-conference games. So that's going to hurt some of these smaller teams. Also,
Yes.
It's going to hurt, a lot of these, teams that depend on these SEC schools for big paydays that they need to sustain their football programs. Because the more you keep adding, the more the SEC is going to say, okay, we're going to play more quote unquote conference games in order to keep the money in-house versus having to split it with someone else. So the more teams you are adding, I think the more it cuts down on your non-conference schedule.
Just thinking outside the box, I don't think this would ever happen. But what if they did like high schools here in Georgia, or not Georgia, but high schools here in Tennessee? I think Florida does it. There's some states that do it. Georgia does. I don't think Georgia does it. They might do it now. Where you scrimmage somebody in the spring, who's to say that somewhere down the road that they don't explore having FCS programs join up with FBS programs in the spring for a spring game?
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, I don't know if that would have happened, but I think that would be a pretty cool idea.
Yeah. Yeah. It like I said, the FCS schools, they have to be very, very wary of what's going on right now. Because like
Mhm.
I said, it could possibly really push them out of some big paydays.
It could, but it's a trickle down thing. Obviously, most of the money is going to be in the SEC. Okay, but it's going to trickle down. Big Ten, ACC, Pac-12. I mean, there's going to be avenues for these SCS programs, and like anything, they'll figure it out. It might take a little while, but they'll figure it out. They'll figure out a niche for themselves. Maybe spring ball, spring league is for them. Maybe there's other nights that they can get TV revenue. Maybe there's something. I don't know. Maybe there's something. Something's got to be somewhere down the line that they can do. And this would be a good brainstorm session. Maybe not for tonight, but that's definitely got to be thought number one. When you look at these FCS games, you won't see them anymore. You'll see Power Five conference crossovers, but I mean the Group of Five teams still. I mean, they still need opponents too, so it won't be as much money, but they'll be looking to FCS programs to fill games because Group of Five is not going to be able to play these SEC schools either very much because it's going to be SEC, ACC. It's going to be all Power Five for too long. Like you won't be playing any of these warm up games. So I don't know. Like it's interesting to see, and maybe you look at it more if they're going to go more an NFL model in the wallet. Maybe go more of an NFL model where you have two preseason games that don't count
Yeah.
and you pay these FCS clubs to come. Like maybe you do that. Like that's a possible solution to give these guys, some extra practice games or whatever. I don't know. I mean, there's probably 1.5 million solutions, and there's probably people that have higher degrees and bigger job descriptions that can figure all this out. But you got to figure out how to support the FCS or they're going to die. Division two, they've always figured it out. But FCS is the ones that I think are kind of stuck in the middle here because they're still Division one. So I don't know. That's kind of crazy to think about. But I don't know. They figured it out before. They'll figure it out again.
Well, you hate to, obviously there's, a lot of FCS teams around in our area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you want them to see that's more opportunities for high school football players to get scholarships to go play football in college, and so you would hate for it to hurt them as much as it possibly could because you want those opportunities for those kids to be able to play and be able to get a free education.
Yeah, you do, and you just like the MAC has done, like the Sun Belt has done. You got to get creative and where you play and how you play, and like Tuesday night action. Like, there's never been eyes on the MAC conference until they did Tuesday night action. Now they get a lot of eyes, so they get ESPN revenue
Yes.
for their games on Tuesday nights. So the FCS, they find a night that's not Thursday or Saturday, and they go. Like obviously they're not going to try to go head to head with the NFL, but maybe you go for a Friday night or maybe you go for a Wednesday night and you just play your games on a weird night of the week and off you go. Like maybe Thursday night FCS is the way to go, and you put it on ESPNU, and you put it. I mean, the Thursday night ESPN game is usually outside of like two weeks. It's usually kind of whack anyway. So I mean, I might watch a North Dakota game over like Louisville versus Wake Forest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I might watch a Jacksonville State Elon game versus you know Boise State versus BYU. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like kind of weak matchups But I don't know. Like they got to figure out, adapt or die. They got to figure it out. They will. Money will find them if they have the right ideas. So
Yeah. And like I said, I think, you know, um,
sell smart cards.
yeah, there you go. Good point.
Have a car
Um,
wash.
yeah, you know, you're
Telethon.
exactly, Corey, you can't, you can't keep beating your head up against the big boys, and like you mentioned the Mac, great idea, way back when they decided to play during the week, back 20 years ago,
And they got a
you know,
catchphrase, Maction.
yeah. Back 20 years ago, they first started 20 some odd year, maybe a little longer than that. They probably was longer than that, but all of a sudden they started playing Thursday night games, and you were like, "Oh, this is great!" And then all of a sudden, here comes more days of the week. So schools became much smarter in being able to get publicity, and it is because let's face it, again, college football is a hot commodity, and ESPN is going to televise you. They're not going to just televise anybody. I'm not going to say that, but they're going to televise some of these smaller leagues because college football sells and college football draws an audience.
And in the world of streaming, there's no way that you couldn't get on the app and just find whatever game you wanted,
Right.
right? You could
Yeah.
go like everybody streams now. So like you could, I mean, obviously you'd be taking Bucky and John on the Chattanooga call or whatever. They'll take the live stream from that, but the announcers might be kind of funny, but hey, it's going to be on somewhere. And it could pick up some steam. And there can be some TV networks that operate kind of like Believe, where they just pick up any and everybody, and then they just figure it out, right? They deliver that platform, and then they just let people come. And ESPN would be a fool not to do that. Fox would be a fool not to do that. Big Ten Network, maybe they get the Missouri Valley Conference, and they start running those games on their stream channel, right?
Yeah. I
Who
mean,
knows?
and as you see, just like you talk about streaming, just like Pluto, which is free, has
Yeah.
many stations on it, has sports stations on it, and there were games on there during the spring,
Yeah.
and there's going to be games on there during the fall. I think they're going to be showing. I can't remember what conference I think it was the WAC, maybe, that they're going to show WAC games. They've got a select number of WAC games they're going to show. That's for anybody.
Mhm.
You know,
So
Pluto
there's
is
avenues to
free.
be
You know
seen.
that
Yeah.
that doesn't cost you anything to watch Pluto.
No. And that would be, that'd be a great avenue to sell. And then every once in a while you get on the big boy network when you play a big boy team.
Yeah,
And then so on and so forth. Like Division II schools could reach out to these FCS schools and just have it all trickle down, right? And you could have, theoretically, you could have every college football game in America available to watch, and you can make some ad revenue on it. Now, whoever's watching um, Montclair State football games is probably not as lucrative as people watching Ohio State, but there can be some dollars coming in. There's all kind of apps.
well, I mean, the bottom line is right now, um, Oklahoma and Texas have kickstarted this thing, and we'll see as the months go on what else happens.
Yeah, and shout out to Joe DeLeon. He's part of the Believe in FCS football show here on the Believe Network. We might have to get him on to kind of talk about this whole thing and how it's going to affect FCS and what they're going to do. He was a long snapper at Rhode Island, so he knows that FCS life. So we might have to get him on at some point and just kind of like pick his brain a little bit, see what he thinks. So, but nonetheless, Texas and Oklahoma, they're coming. It's just a matter of when at this point. So it could be as early as next season, or it could be 2026, or anywhere in between. So I look forward to seeing how that affects it. If they go single table, if they go straight two divisions, or if they try this stupid pod system, which I thought it was kind of cool out of the box when I first looked at it. Then I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, this is not. this is not the answer. So,
No,
um,
I don't like it either.
yeah, it's not the answer. So, whatever I said before about it, I've thought about it. Sometimes, sometimes my initial reaction is way different than my post analysis reaction. So, keep that in mind. But we'll keep you more updated, and I'm sure on this channel, you'll be vastly updated on the world of Texas and Oklahoma until it becomes official, and then we will welcome them into the conference the way that we welcome everyone in this conference. Just ask LSU. We'll get LSU to be the greeting committee. So, SEC Media Days. Well, I would say that it was kind of dominated by what we just talked about. However, um, my initial stance, and my stance remains this: I thought all the coaches did really, really well. We talked about Shane Beamer. Uh, his roster is terrible, but I think eventually he's going to be really good. He impressed me. This guy gets it, right? He understands it. I mean, obviously, the pedigree that he has, I'm not surprised, but I'm just surprised at kind of how quickly he kind of caught on. I was impressed with him. Eli Drinkowitz was really good at media days.
It was.
I really liked Clark Lee. I thought Josh Heupel did a great job. I thought everybody did a great job in SEC media days, especially the new guys. I was kind of, I wouldn't say worried, but I was kind of skeptical, or I was just kind of like, okay, how are these new guys gonna respond? And I thought all of them responded brilliantly, especially, I don't know, like Clark Lee said all the right things. He presented himself with confidence. They've got a star quarterback in Ken Seals. Josh Heupel was even chatting it up with everybody after his press conference down Radio Row. So he's making friends and contacts all over the place. And I thought Shane Beamer killed it. And then Drinkowitz is trying to vie for the new Spurrier spot.
Yeah, like I said, of all of them, I was more impressed with Drinkowitz than I was anybody else.
Yeah.
To be quite honest, I really liked what I heard from him. He said all the right things. He didn't get trapped in any questions whatsoever. He had the right answers for everything. I was very impressed by him.
Mm-hmm. He is, and he was one that when he came in, I was like, man, this guy, I don't know. He was coming from Appy State. He might be in over his head. Then Bama rolls around and Bama does what Bama does to everybody, roll right through him. Then Tennessee rolled right through him, and I'm like, oh, this guy's not off to a great start. Tennessee, you can't judge the Bama game, but that Tennessee game wasn't great. Then they play LSU, and they turn it all around, and they finished 5-5. But they were ranked at one point. So I'm just impressed with the culture that he's building there. Those guys are playing hard. He's starting to recruit fairly well. He's gonna have to get a little bit more of an uptick in that if he wants to compete long term. But they're buying in over there, and I really like what he's about. I really, just listening to him talk, you're just like, man, this guy, like, he understands it. He doesn't give you the standard canned coaches responses. I mean, he doesn't reveal too much either, but he'll tell you. I mean, he's not afraid to answer a question. Some coaches are very, very guarded with that, but he's pretty open book when it comes to that. And I know media people appreciate that, but you get to kind of see into his mind and see how he's thinking, and I was impressed.
Yeah, like I said, I was. He was the most impressive of the coaches that the new coaches for sure that I saw. And I mean, he ranked up there with me with as far as the veterans go. To be quite honest with you, like I said, I was very impressed by him. I think Missouri had a home run when they hired him. They got to give him some time. And I think he will do some things there. I think to get to a point, of course, it all depends on, what happens with this expansion, because, if in this expansion, I would just digress a little bit. I was going to say that Missouri may be worried about him going somewhere else, but if you're part of the SEC, you're in the pedigree with the additions of Oklahoma and Texas, so it'd be hard to leave the conference.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere voluntarily now.
No.
If you're in the SEC, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, But yeah, I think Drinkwitz is a star of the future. I really like what I saw in
Mm-hmm.
him, and like I said, I like what I saw on the field from them. They, as you said, they stumbled out of the block. They didn't look very well against Tennessee. They you know but as time went on, he found the guys he needed to find, and they became more seasoned and were
Mm-hmm.
able to play the way he wants them to play. And I thought they played very well. And going 5-5 in your first year at Missouri against
You can
the
send all
schedule.
SEC
Yeah,
schedule.
yeah. I thought was a very, very, very good year for them.
Mm-hmm. And I don't care if LSU's down. You beat LSU in your first year. That's pretty
Sure,
good. Because
absolutely.
LSU's a great program. They might not be very long for Ed Orgeron, but they're a great program. And so he went toe to toe with them and beat them. Two of his losses were two of the best teams, two of the better teams in the country. Like he lost to Georgia and Alabama. Alabama, obviously, they won it all, and Georgia wasn't far off from. They weren't far off from sneaking into the playoff. Like had it been a 12-team playoff, Georgia would have been in. So, those were two of his losses. So,
The
as soon as
Tennessee loss looks bad now, but then it wasn't so bad
they
because Tennessee was on a roll at that point.
they were in a winning streak. They
Yes.
were they were playing some really good football, and then
Yeah.
they fell off a cliff,
Yes.
which I still don't understand. Well, I do understand it, but on the same token, I don't. But speaking of Tennessee, like I don't know, like I get more and more impressed with Josh Heupel by the day. I feel like they're about to land Walter Nolan.
Well, interesting that he's going to be in Knoxville now to play his senior year. They can't do anything but help. To be quite honest with you. So we shall see. The way he's moved around with high schools, and like I said, now that he's going to be in the Knoxville area for his senior year, can't hurt your chances.
Mm-mm. He's right there. He's right there. Maybe he'll sign with Vanderbilt
There you go.
or
That would
Kentucky.
be a coup, would it not?
That would be awesome. I'm rooting for that. So Walter Nolan, go to Vanderbilt, please. Sorry, Tennessee. No, so I have been very, very impressed. And Tennessee, like my Tennessee friends, they they're like, man, they're all very, very skeptical. Like you hear them talk, it's Butch Jones PTSD all over again, right? With every hire, it doesn't matter who it is, they've got that Butch Jones PTSD that they don't have out of their system yet, and they're like, man, he's yeah, he was successful. They make all the excuses to why he's not going to be successful at Tennessee, and it's because he won with Scott Frost players. And then I remind them,
I don't buy that.
I remind them that he still has to coach those guys.
Yes.
Like he's still like they're Scott Frost's players. You still have to coach them. They're not automatic. They're not like it's not like you walk in, stick a quarter, and pull the lever, and out pops an undefeated season. Like you still got to coach those guys, and they still have to buy into your culture. And they bought in pretty daggum quick. Because you go from Scott Frost to Josh Heupel, those are two different people, two different
Right.
personalities. Josh Heupel has a pedigree. He played at Oklahoma. He won a national championship. He beat a very, very good Florida State defense in the national championship. He's been successful everywhere he's been. Things where they didn't realize how good they had it. They're probably going to realize it now because they're going to be in the same conference. And
Yep.
Josh Heupel, Josh Heupel will remind them, "Hey, I'm actually pretty good at what I do." But I think a lot of it's just pace, style of play offensively. The thing I worry about is the defense wearing out. Anytime you get a team that's tempo like that, you worry about their defense wearing out. But UCF was in a fair share of shootouts, but that's just how college football is going to be now. I mean, defense. Like I'm not judging anything off this first year. I think if he goes 6-6, maybe he's coach of the freaking year. So, but I'm aboard the Josh Heupel train. I know as a Georgia fan, I shouldn't be saying that. Like I I might revoke my Georgia card, my dog card.
That's true. You're right.
But but and I'm not rooting for Josh. I'm not rooting for Tennessee. That's why I hate like these coaches that I really like. I hate when they go to like Florida, Tennessee, and Georgia Tech. Like I hate that because I can't root for him. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't root for him. But I like him. I think he's gonna be good. I think he's gonna be a thorn in Georgia's side. I think Tennessee's gonna be really good very shortly. So just hang on tight.
Yeah, you gotta give him some patience. Let's considering what they lost in the transfer portal, and the fact that they won only 3 games last year. So things are not going to change overnight. But I think another thing too, Corey, you got to point out. I think they have hired now some strong leadership as their AD. He provides strong leadership in Danny White. I think that is huge. You got to have that guy right there, the pillar of your athletic program, and I think they've got that guy now.
And he trusts him. He trusts him because they work together at UCF. He knows what he can do. He knows that I can just go to him if I'm struggling. I mean, obviously at Tennessee, you're probably not, you probably don't get as much of a leash as you do at Central Florida, but he trusts him. He knows him. And that's that relationship right there is another reason why I think, because, he can go to him and say, hey, Dan, I need this, this, and that. And he's like, oh, I got like way more money. So, hey, yeah, you can have it. Go get it, right? Get anything you need, you got it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it is. Now with this NIL stuff, now like you can really go get it. Like you're gonna have like boat companies coming from all over the place to come sponsor Tennessee athletes because of the Vol Navy, right?
Yeah,
You're gonna have all kind of stuff in Knoxville. That's gonna be even more attractive. Like all these NIL deals, all these, yeah, like Velasco dill pickles, right? They're gonna so all these NIL people are gonna come to the SEC now and say, well, this is a lucrative league. I don't care who you are. You're an SEC athlete. I'm going to sponsor you. It doesn't matter who it is. They're in the SEC. They're going to get Mondo television time, right? If you're the starting, all you got to do is be in the starting lineup. Well, actually, no, check that. You don't even have to be on a starting lineup. You just got to play.
right.
You can't be a total bench warmer, but you got to play. And I think all these car companies, beverage companies, restaurants, they'll all come out of the woodwork now. It's going to get crazy, and it's going to be, I don't know. To me, it's going to be kind of fun to see kind of how it all unfolds because I'm not directly in it. So, but it's going to be funny to see how it all unfolds. And it's all going to gravitate towards the SEC, and everybody else is going to lose their mind. And there's going to be like a mad dash to the food bowl for all these other conferences trying to scramble to put together the best conference so that some of this attention will go to them.
I still don't think they have a grasp on some of the things that could possibly happen. And it's sort of a wild west right now. It's just free game. There's no restrictions. I think eventually, like I said, I don't think there's any way for them to anticipate all the factors involved in anything, all the things that will be happening, et cetera, et cetera. And what these players may do may come out on this, so they may have a tattoo on their arm or something of a sponsor. I mean, there's all sorts of ramifications when it comes to this. There's all sorts of things like that that are going to creep up. They're going to crop up and during the year, and it's going to make it a wild, wild season.
Yeah, these kids are going to start looking like race cars.
Yeah.
The helmets, I can't wait to see the helmets. They're going to have, instead of like stickers, that spirit stickers, like reward stickers, they're going to have little logos all over their helmet. right? It's going to go like up and down. So like Ohio State players, they're going to stop giving out Buckeyes and they're going to start giving out. Uh, I don't know a major company in Columbus, but let's just say they're going to start giving out poor stickers.
Yeah.
Or, hey, you earned a McDonald's sticker. You earned the arches today for your play on special teams.
Hey,
Who
listen,
knows?
like I said, it's I, I don't know how there's no possible way they can think of all the possible ways these kids can come up with and make money. In as far as the endorsements go. So
Yeah.
we'll see
Craig
what
San-
happens.
Greg Sankey, king of college football.
Yeah.
King
So
of college football. Dude's a G, man. I'm excited for it. And as you can see on the middle of our screen, these guys, Best of the West, I listened to them last week. They did a really good job. Kevin Bohannon and Jake Thomas. Kevin from Hog Talk and Jake Thomas from the Tide Talk podcast. They joined forces for Best of the West, so check them out every Tuesday at 8:30. So that was kind of a cool show to watch. I kind of get a good perspective there. Thought they did a good job. So I'm sure they're chomping at the bit to talk about this whole expansion stuff too, because it's gonna be crazy. So but we've been going on and on and on about it. But I mean that's the story. So I'm curious to see, and we're the beast of the East, but like it's going to be a national ripple effect, and so it's going to be where do the Texas schools end up? Where does Kansas State? What about Oklahoma State? Or is their state legislature going to make them a package deal with the Sooners? Who knows? Like there's a lot of questions to be answered. West Virginia, what happens to them? Do they go back into G5 obscurity, or do they join up with the ACC, which would make the most sense? But what happens to them? Does Clemson and Florida State flirt with the SEC and let's go 20 teams now, or 18? That would be 18 teams. What happens there? I don't know. Lots of questions to be answered. This thing's far from over. Kind of like the Aaron Rodgers saga. This thing's over, far from over. And for the Big 12, they might as well go make Last Dance Part 2, cover the Big 12 football, or just cover the Big 12 conference for a year and create a 10-part documentary called The Last Dance Big 12. That'd be great. It's probably not as good as the Michael Jordan one, but they can try. It's okay.
by the way, were you surprised at the media's picks for in each division? By any surprises?
No, I don't know. I mean, I think Georgia and Alabama are, I think they're the top two. Was most of them was most of the media publications picking Kentucky number 2 in the East?
No, well, I don't think so. No, I think there were a few, but the majority they had them third. I think, which is where the media members had them. They picked the East: Georgia, Florida, Kentucky, Missouri, Tennessee, South Carolina, Vandy. Which
Yeah,
I really don't have a problem with.
I don't either. I think maybe Florida's getting a little bit too much credit right now because there's so many questions with that
Yep.
team. You got Emory Jones, who's a great quarterback. He's a good quarterback. I think he's got a lot of ability, and I think Dan Mullen's system fits him really well. But who's he going to throw to? Who's he going to hand it to? Who's going to stop the other team? Like they got so many questions to answer. Yeah, they've recruited well, but we don't know anything about these guys on Saturdays. Because the guys that just left for the NFL were the ones getting all the time. So I'm a little hesitant at picking Florida number 2. I certainly think it wouldn't surprise me to see them at 2, but it also wouldn't surprise me to see them at 4 or 5 too. Like and have a
Yeah.
completely terrible year. So Florida's a team that's in flux. I'm surprised that Kentucky. I think Kentucky's one of those teams where if they figure out the quarterback situation, they can be really good because they have a good running game. They have a good experienced offensive line coming back, and their defense is, even though some of the star power has left, I still think they play defense really well no matter what. There, Missouri's kind of the wild card for me because you have Connor Basilick, and you have so much unproven talent, but Kiki Chisholm is somebody that I think that is going to be a big time playmaker for the Tigers, and he's going to be a problem within this division. So you got to watch out for them. They're a wild card team, but I think 1 through 5 is really good in this division. I think it's going to be really competitive. You put them up against the West, obviously, it's probably not very good, but I think within the division, it's going to be super, super competitive. And for TV and for fans, that's what you want. So I'm all for that.
I was surprised that Florida got 7 first place votes, to be quite frank.
That's the yeah. I
Yeah,
am very surprised.
I'm very surprised by that, and the fact that in the West, Texas A&M was picked second and only received 1.
Yeah,
that surprises me a little bit. That does.
Yeah, and to jump over, and I'll let the guys tomorrow figure this out. So, best of the West guys, Kevin and Jake, if you're watching this, here's a question for tomorrow. How is it that Bama, I mean, Bama's Bama, but they're replacing a lot, just like Florida. And Texas A&M returns a lot.
Yes.
And they daggum near made the playoff. How are they only getting 1 vote? How is Florida getting all these votes for number 1 in the East? How is Texas A&M not getting more consideration for the West?
Yeah, I would take Texas A&M.
That game's a toss-up right now.
Yeah,
to me.
I would take Texas A&M to finish ahead of Alabama before I would Florida finishing ahead of Georgia.
Oh, 10 times out of 10. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is one of those years where most years I would probably be like, yeah, okay, I can see that. This is not the year to give Florida so much love. Florida could finish as low as 4th. I don't think Alabama's going to finish 4th, but
no.
Florida's going to finish way down there. They got some concerns outside the quarterback position. But like, come on now. A&M this is the best A&M's been forever. And you only one person is buying it. Come on now.
Yeah. I mean, South Carolina got 1 first place vote. I mean, come on.
Come on.
Give me a break here now.
Yeah, South Carolina.
Was that you, Tori, that did that?
That was definitely me. I gave Vanderbilt one too, under my alias. So maybe the best of the West guys can maybe examine that a little bit further.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I said,
it's crazy, man. I don't understand that. They got to get more love. I mean, did a lot of people give Ole Miss some love, or an LSU some love? Like, how many first place votes did LSU?
LSU, Ole Miss, and Arkansas each got a first place vote.
So
A&M, LSU, Ole Miss, and Arkansas each got a first place vote. Alabama had 130.
Like, come on, man! Like, this is not realistic. It's just not. Like, Bama's good; they're a great program, but you replace Sarkisian with Bill O'Brien. You have a quarterback who hadn't taken many snaps, who's very talented, by the way, and your number 1 guy is John Mechie, who we don't really know what his ability is. And you're replacing a lot on defense. Like, at some point, when you replace as much as you replace year in and year out, at some point it will catch up with you. It will. I don't care who you are.
Look at Kentucky basketball, for example.
Yeah, that's a totally different animal.
Yeah,
the one and done has kind of screwed that completely all to hell. But like, there's teams in the West that are catching up, right? Like, you look at Texas A&M, they are nipping at the heels. They were a few bad plays in that game a year ago. They got 30-pieced, but they were in that game, or they were competitive. There was a few things that didn't go right. They started atrociously. That's what screwed them. They started really bad. And then they settled in, and they actually went toe to toe with Bama. And Bama had a historically great offense that day. But I don't think they get him in Kyle Field, right?
Yes, I think so. I think that's correct.
They get him in Kyle Field. Yeah. They're more experienced, and they probably won't start as slowly. So that game's going to be interesting, right? Then you got Ole Miss. They're on the rise, right? They've got some good things going. They got the best quarterback in the league, arguably. I kind of, I wouldn't. I think he's got more starts under his belt than JT does, and that's kind of the difference for me. Got a little bit more experience than JT, so I love JT, but I think Corral is a little bit better. They're nipping at the heels. Auburn's talented. We don't know what they got, but they're a snake in the grass right there, as always. The Iron Bowl's never a sure win. And then you have LSU, who they're the freaking yo-yo to. Like they could either finish second in the West, or they could finish almost last. I don't think they're going to finish last because Arkansas's roster is still not great, but they still got a ways to go. Arkansas is playing better, but they're just not there yet. Bielema tore that team to shreds.
Yeah, and then I remember talking to you last week. I was going to be interested to see how close Georgia would be when it came to picking the SEC champion, and Alabama received 84 votes, and Georgia 45. Thought maybe it might be a little closer than that.
It's Alabama. That's all it is. It's Alabama. People are like, yeah, it's Alabama until it's not Alabama. Georgia's more experience. They got, they're right there with them neck and neck with talent wise, and Georgia's got more experience coming back. And that's the difference. I think Georgia's in certain spots. Georgia's better than Alabama.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So I think it should be at least dead even, if not in favor of Georgia. And I know it's, I know I'm the Georgia guy, so that's, you're probably thinking, yeah, of course you picked Georgia to win but they're loaded guys. I mean, let's not lie about it. They're loaded, right? I would say that if it was anybody else, they're loaded. It's okay. But they're going to be good. They should get more votes, but who knows? It's just Bama. That's all. Bama's a machine. Nick Saban's made them into that, and kudos to him. He's the GOAT. But he's made it. He's made that way. The media won't pick it. It's like you don't pick it. You pick it until you don't. You pick it to hit until it doesn't hit, and then you still pick it until it shows a pattern of, okay, this thing's over, right?
Yeah.
Like you're going to play the heater until it's over,
right?
And Bama's heater's not over yet. This might be the first year where you're like, okay, maybe. Nick Saban's 69 years old. He's getting up there. He's probably tired of replacing coordinators at this point. Like I don't know how much tread he has left on those tires. So,
you think he goes 5 more years?
No. I think he wears out by then. He's so intense, like he's so all in. I don't think physically he can last that long. I mean, I think he's in pretty good shape for his age, but it's with this expansion stuff, I just don't think his body will hold up.
Yeah.
I just don't.
It'll be interesting to see how much longer he'll go. There's no doubt, as you called him the GOAT, and I can't argue with that. He is the greatest college football coach ever, and you hope he goes out on top versus hanging on a little longer than he should, and things get out of hand a little bit, where that goes down a little bit. You'd like to see him go out on top.
Yeah, that's what he deserves, right? He deserves the best. And say what you want to say about Nick Saban, but he's done it. I mean, he's been this way ever since he started. Ever since he got his first head coaching job. I mean, he took a Michigan State team out of the tank, and got them viable. Got to LSU, won a national championship. They had been struggling for a little while. Tried his hand in the NFL, realized it was a way different animal. Came back to college, and the rest is history at Alabama. I mean, that guy's been insane at Alabama. Like, he's taken what the Alabama standard, and he's like zoomed past it in his Mercedes-Benz. So, like that plug there I gave him?
I did. I like that plug. Maybe we'll have a couple of those in our driveways.
Yeah, come on, Nick. Or no, Coach Saban. What do you think about Coach Prime walking out on his press conference?
Oh man, Coach Prime! I tell you, Coach Prime, he's got a lot to learn when it comes to being a coach. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I mean, I do think in this particular scenario, I do think was he a little harsh coming after the guy? Probably, yeah. Like call me coach. Probably a little harsh in that. But also the reporter could have just the reporter didn't have to do what he did either. Like the reporter is just as much in the wrong as Dion is in that scenario. He's like, okay, Dion. And he asked for it, right? So I think they're both wrong in that scenario. I think Dion should have just said, hey, I'd prefer if you called me Coach Sanders. And maybe the guy would have been like, okay, that's fair enough. All right, Coach Sanders. But neither of them had a great response. And that situation was probably warranted for that. That reaction was warranted. So, but yeah, Coach Prime, he's got some growing up to do, but he will, I guess. If he doesn't, he'll go back to TV and make a killing. He's a Hall of Famer. He can do whatever he wants. He's a really good TV pundit on the NFL Network. So
yes, he is,
or was.
Yeah,
and he was my favorite player growing up because he was Falcon. He was primetime, man. I mean, he's exciting to watch. So I've been interested in him as a coach. I'm interested to see what. Speaking of former players being coaches, I'm interested to see what Eddie George does at TSU.
Mm-hmm.
Not to go around the OVC, or not to be the beast of the Ohio Valley, but I think he'll be interesting to see kind of how he's kind of built that staff. So I'm kind of curious to know kind of what he's going to be like. How is he going to adjust? He's got all these pro guys around him. Is he just going to be kind of the figurehead? I don't know. I mean, he knows a lot of football. He's been around a lot of things. So who knows on that?
Their last game of the season, they go to Starkville to take on the Bulldogs.
Oh, okay. All right. That'll be fun. That'd be a fun little test for him. That'd be a fun little test for. That'll be fun to watch Mike Leach against that.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Mike Leach, he never disappoints at SEC Media Days.
No, he doesn't.
he doesn't. How do you think Dan Mullen did? Speaking of not disappointing, Darth Mullen.
I was about as well as I expected, to be quite honest. I didn't think, he didn't move the meter either way for me.
Yeah, I thought he did good, didn't do great. I just think he's just whiny to me. He's whiny. Prove me wrong. Anyway, well, as you can see, our man Steve Willis, you can see the scrolling graphics here on our screen. So big shout out there. Steve, I'll have to get you the hometown team logo. But yeah, Kenny Salas, hometown team, man. Hometown team 615. If you want that realty, if you want that house in Wilson County up here in Tennessee, the housing market is exploding, to say the least. Check out Kenny Salas, the hometown team. Him and his wife especially, they do a tremendous job. I'm sure they would expand outside of Wilson County if you wanted them to. But like I said, hometownteam615.com. Find them on social media. Sign up for a quote. Request a quote. Like I said, they'll get you in the house that you want, and they will find the best deal for you, the best deal possible, and they will help you out. And they're the real deal, man. Hometown team 615. So, anyway, Craig, that's going to about wrap it up for us, right?
Yeah, it's been. I'm sure we'll have more information on Oklahoma and Texas as it's a developing story, and who knows, it could be two more teams out there ready to join.
It's going to get crazy before it settles. So we're done expanding our thoughts on that. See what I did there. And as this thing develops, we'll keep you more and more up to date. But as you can see on the screen, we are the Beast of the East. If you look right above us, you can find social media information at Burton.Corey on Instagram for me. You can follow my other show, Believe in Dogs, on all social media platforms. Find us wherever you hit your podcast. Rate, subscribe, like this video. Hit the bell notification if you want. If you want some other content on this, you'll get a notification that something else has gone live. So Willis Digital Media, is doing a great job. Like I said, with the fall lineup. Beast of the East is going to kick off your week. Best of the West, as you see with Kevin Bohannon and Jake Thomas, that kicks off tomorrow night, same time. Then you got SEC After Dark. You'll see me try a new beer, and then Palmcast every weekday, recruiting shows, Monday morning quarterback shows here on the Willis Digital Media Palmcast channel. So check us out there. And again, anywhere you find your podcast, if you just want the audio version, like if you're driving in your car on a long road trip and you want to listen to us, find us on there. We are the Beast of the East on the Believe Podcast Network and also on Willis Digital Media for Craig Ladd. I'm Corey Burton. We are presented by betonline.ag and the Keller Williams Realty Hometown Team 615 and all the other sponsors you see rolling across the screen. So, Craig, have a great week.
You too, Corey.
Everybody else out there, have a great week. And we'll see you back here next week, hopefully with some more news on this expansion. If not, we'll just start giving you previews. All right. Anyway, take care and goodbye.